they come in and they come up for prayer, and then they wonder when that week why they're struggling with the same things. The alcoholism and the drug abuse and the sexual abuse and the anger and the rage and the problems with women and everything else that we see that brings downfall to a lot of people. These are their poisons that they've chosen. The lying spirit was put in the mouths of all these prophets of yours. No one in the room was wondering where. And Jehoshaphat was quiet. The only one wondering where was the one that came up in a rage and slapped Micaiah. And I can tell you that Ahab knew where the lying spirits were because he operated in this spiritual witchcraft and this Jezebel spirit and everything else. And I've heard people say a python spirit. And these spirits, where they operated, these were their poisons. These are things that they used to control. And he knew where. He knew exactly what Micaiah was talking about. Point 4, those in darkness have lives in turmoil and are under spiritual attack. Those in darkness have lives in turmoil and are under spiritual attack, which means that Christians can have spiritual attack. Christians can have this poisons in their life that constantly brings them back.
That's right. Yep.
That they never get through.
Yep.
Those in darkness have lives in turmoil and are under spiritual attack. Their lifestyle breeds forth spiritual attack. Right now you might be wondering, why does the mob keep coming against me? Maybe your lifestyle is breeding forth spiritual attack. Maybe if you have real change come in, that means your lifestyle changes and the attacks will cease.
Jesus, right? Wow.
The attacks will cease. Micaiah ends, the Lord has decreed disaster for you. He doesn't say on you. He doesn't say with you. He says for you. Now, he asked him, please tell me the truth. So he opened himself up for the Lord to decree disaster for him, because the same poison he chose, this lying spirit, came forth and seduced him and told him and enticed him to go to war. And he calls forth all these prophets, except for Micaiah, the one. He forgot about him. I laugh at that. If you really were going to ask someone, how many times must I tell you to speak forth, to swear, to tell nothing but the truth in the name of the Lord? If you really felt that way about someone, that you had to tell them that many times, then you would have told them first. How well received this timely and accurate word. Slaps him in the face and asks, which way did this spirit go? Then the king orders, take him. If the king says take him, that's probably not a good thing.
Right.
Take him. Take him back to the city. Tell my son Joash, put this fellow in prison and giving him nothing but bread and water until I return safely. And then it came to me. The king didn't even have to go very far to get Micaiah. The messenger didn't have to travel very far to get Micaiah. He was in his very city, because he told him exactly where to go. He was in his very city. This prophet was never used because he knew he would not speak forth kind words. Take him. I love 22:28 because it shows what does Micaiah say right after he says, take him away. First King Micaiah declared, if you ever return safely,
I was going to say the word safely.
if you ever return safely, the Lord has not spoken through me. Then he added, mark my words, all you people.
Yes.
The king said, away. Mark my words, put him in prison and give him only bread and water until I return safely.
He's probably going to die.
He's probably going to die. Because Micaiah says, if you ever return safely. Micaiah asked, if.
What a confirmation.
Jesus.
He declares, just after he knows the time frame he was going to prison. You're going to prison until you return safely. He's wasted no time to declare, if you ever return safely, the Lord has not spoken through me. If. Mark my words. His words were, God has brought destruction for you. You will go and die there. That's pretty clear.
Jesus.
Write it down. In my words. When he says, mark my words, he's saying, write it down. If you can't remember what I just told you, write it down. Write down what I spoke. He was scared, so he turned to Jehoshaphat and plotted deceit. Ahab would wear the royal robes. When 32 chariot commanders came at Jehoshaphat, what did he do? He cried out. They saw that it was not the king, and they stopped pursuing him. But someone, 1 Kings 22:34. But someone drew his bow at random and hit the king of Israel between the sections of an armor. The king told his chariot driver, wheel around and get me out of this fighting. I've been wounded. All day long the battle raged, and the king was propped up in his chariot facing the Arameans. The blood from his wound ran onto the floor of the chariot, and that evening he died. As the sun was setting, a cry spread through the army, every man to his town, every man to his town, everyone to his land. So the king dies, and everyone goes home. Exactly what Micaiah had said.
Party's over.
To the point. To the point. Everything he said, he plots, he disguises himself. But I want to look at it. I call this fresh manna the random arrow. The reason is God could not have scripted this better. The word says, but someone drew a bow at random. He was disguised in a chariot. He had a chariot driver. The king was disguised as a soldier. And someone drew his bow at random against him and hit him. The next point, when in darkness, the light will come, even judgment like a random arrow. When in darkness, the light will come, even judgment like a random arrow. He hits between the sections of his armor. You got to figure they had to have about 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of it, a 16 inch. One arrow randomly hit between the cross section of his armor. God uses random arrows. He used a random arrow in this situation. 2 weeks ago we spoke about the mob. That Elijah called forth holy bears to demolish the mob. Today, a random arrow is coming on your behalf.